We're ready to start. Okay. And those of you who are online, welcome back. Yes, we're adjusting our schedule here. Some of the officers had to leave early, so we're switching the lived experience panel and the criminal justice panel. And this is being recorded for Catskill Air. Thank you very much, and will air on a future program. I want to introduce to you Jen Morin, who was a graduate nursing student in administration at SUNY Delhi when she joined us in the fall to work with us on this summit. She graduated, yay! And come on up. She graduated and is staying with us, has stayed with us, which we're grateful for. And she also is a nurse manager in long-term care. She has many years of experience as a nurse's aide, I think an LPN, and then an RN, now a master's prepared nurse. So we're grateful to you, Jen, for your support, and I'm going to hand this over to you to introduce the panel.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, everybody. My name is Jen Morin, graduate of SUNY Delhi. So I'm here to introduce to you the criminal justice panel. So this is a panel of professionals who will speak about. This is yours. Can you hear me now? Okay, this is a panel of professionals who will speak about the criminal justice response to the opioid endemic. So the panel includes Julianah Ogundimu, Jessica Merck, Lieutenant Chad Storey, Lieutenant George Tortorelis, I apologize, Sheriff Kusminsky, Pete Kusminsky, and Sheriff Juan Figueroa. And moderating today will be Dr. Berthilde Dufrene. She is the Chief Nursing Officer for the New York State Office of Mental Health, the corrections-based facilities.
All right, and good morning, everybody, and welcome. And I thank you for this opportunity to moderate this panel this morning on a very important topic in community service. So I'm going to really start with one on the fact that the criminal justice system have been, their primary philosophy are concentrated on retributive justice in public safety. And now evidence-based practice as well as new legislature is moving us toward more compassion and empathy and harm reduction. How has this shift, how difficult has it been to shift in philosophy in caring for our public?
Well, good morning, and thank you all for having us here. This is also, I believe, my...
Juan, can you stand up so people, and speak louder?
This is I've been to every one of these, and I'm very happy to be here. And this is extremely important for us. And it has been a tremendous change in what we in law enforcement do. Some people would say, why law enforcement? Well, we're the first ones there. We're the first ones that get called when there's an overdose. We're the first ones that get called when there's a fatality. And what's unique about the Office of Sheriff, like myself and Sheriff Kusminsky, is that we also have the jail. And there is a captive audience in the jail when people that are there for crimes that they committed because they're trying to support their habits. And these folks we know aren't your true criminals per se. And then we also need to speak about the silent victims, which are the family members who would never call us because they're afraid that they would have to pay for bail, they would have to pay for a lawyer. And it's been a unique experience alone the last 3 years involving, as we all know, law enforcement with the changing of the laws, the anti-law enforcement sentiment, on top of the pandemic that we're finally getting through. So the changes have been, in my entire 3+ decades, I've never seen the change that I've seen in the last 3 years. It's good change, I believe, and I'm going to use the words of Lieutenant Chad Storey behind me. It's the future of law enforcement. For the first time in the history of our office, we have a social worker and 2 peer advocates that are embedded with us and go out to overdoses. And instead of us showing up to arrest people, we're showing up to get them into rehab. There was a time where people wouldn't even call 911 because they're afraid that they were going to get arrested. Well, we're past that, thank God. But that goes to show you the changes that are in place and that are happening in law enforcement. I'm pretty proud of that change. Has it been easy? Of course not. You're talking to someone who's been in the narcotics field, doing undercover work and putting the business side of this business into jails and prisons. And now we're putting people into rehab, the users, of course, and the people that need the help. And that is a drastic change of what I was used to doing. And patience is always something that we need when it comes to this problem, because it affects so many different people. I'm passionate about this because of the crack epidemic and what happened in the 80s and 90s. I remember all too well how people were treated, and just saying no is not the answer. We have to go past that. We have to actually try to move forward to help people. And I'm pretty happy I can tell you a story of a detective that's sitting here who one day, Mario, was taking someone to rehab, and the gentleman kept looking over to him and saying, "You're a detective? Are you really a detective and you're taking me to rehab?" And he said to him, "Yeah, I am." If that doesn't show you the changes that we're doing in law enforcement, I don't know what will or what does. But it's law now in the jail that we have to give medical assisted treatment in our jail. We started in the Ulster County Jail in 2019, and we started with maintenance. And it's a phased-in approach. It has to be a phased-in approach in order to get buy-in. There has to be buy-in. You can't have automatic change without a phased approach and buy-in. Because I can tell you that if you go too quick, folks that are in positions of authority that aren't used to this, they can find a way to put blocks and stops. And I'm really proud, really, of the men and women of the Oracle team. We started this in 2019, opioid response as county law enforcement. We got an award in 2019 from the New York State Sheriff's Association, and we were just recently selected by the National Center of Courts to be a collaborative justice innovative site in the country, and one of 18. So I thank you, and I wanted to get that out of the way because I got to leave in about 20 minutes, but I thank you for letting me have that opening remark.
Thank you so much. And Chad, what exactly you mentioned also, what is also in a community where transportation involvement can cause such challenges to access, how it is also being implemented in the community, and how are you reaching, how are people accessing your program?
Great question, and thanks for having us here today, just like the sheriff said. So Oracle is opioid response as county law enforcement, and like the sheriff said, why law enforcement? Because we're the first responders. Generally, years ago, we'd walk into an overdose situation, and the EMTs would come, and the person would get transported, and that was it. Little to no resources, and Good Samaritan laws came into play. We were able to not arrest people, and ultimately take the paraphernalia and destroy it. So now the future, as the sheriff said, is Oracle. So we went from, and I'm not gonna lie to you, it was tough. It was tough breaking into the law enforcement community with this whole idea. But I can tell you since 2019, we've grown to the point with our team in Ulster County where we have representatives from just about every law enforcement agency on our team. To the point where now we're actually, the state police is in play. They're sending us, if they respond to an overdose, they're sending us the information so our team can go out and follow up. We're not only getting referrals from law enforcement, we're getting referrals from our local hospital, we're getting referrals from the district attorney's office, we're getting referrals from the public defender's office, and we also, within the last year, developed our sheriff's app, and on the app itself is a referral form for both civilians and for law enforcement to be able to send the information directly to our team, real time, 24 hours a day. The other part of the question was, what are some of the barriers as far as transportation and housing? We are very fortunate to be partnered with our health department and the Healing Communities organization and grant through Columbia University. So we have hotel vouchers to bridge the gap if we're working with an individual to be able to get them some type of secure housing, and then transportation is another issue. And through the support of Sheriff Figueroa, we have really the no barrier approach. So if it's a transportation issue and we have a facility in Vermont, we're going to transport that person to Vermont. If we need to get a person on a plane and get them to Florida, we're going to get them on a plane and we're going to get them to Florida. And really, this team behind me make my job really easy. They make me look good every day, and I can't say enough about them. And quite honestly, 5 years ago, had you told me that I'd be working next to a social worker and that would be my partner every day, I would say you're crazy. But it's got to be, out of my 26 years in law enforcement, it's by far the most rewarding thing I have done.
And what is it?
What's that?
Oracle.
Oracle, opioid response
Yeah, but
as
what do you
county
do?
law enforcement. Oh, good question. Thank you. Thanks for queuing me up. So Oracle, it's a multi-phase approach. So the first phase is through some donations. We were able to purchase a camper, and it's a living quarters, and we prop it up with, some drug paraphernalia and some soda cans with fake bottoms to hide stuff, and shoes without shoelaces. And so our first maiden voyage with the camper was at the Ulster County Fair. And so we take the people that want to go through, we say, hey, all right, this is the stuff you have to look for. And then at the end of the tour, we end with Narcan training, and they walk away with Narcan. So in our first year, we trained 500-600 people, and that seems to be the average of the year, every year that we train. So that's the first approach, Narcan training, community engagement. The second phase was a hotline. We have a hotline number that rings to one of our members 24 hours a day. So anybody can call the hotline, and ultimately, sometimes we don't always answer it right away, but you are going to get somebody within a short amount of time to at least call you back, if not answer it directly. The other approach is the team itself, which I'll let them speak on what they do every day. And then, like the sheriff said, the MAP program inside the jail. I am not a jail guy, so I'm not 100% versed in the MAT program in the jail, full disclosure. And then the final approach, which we have yet to implement, is reentry. And we are working with the Chamber of Commerce and a couple other organizations as far as finding jobs and housing. Housing is a big issue everywhere. Transportation is a big issue everywhere. So it's a matter of just kind of like thinking out of the box.
Great.
Gotcha. All right, so in 2019, Sheriff Figueroa became our sheriff, and he went to a new sheriff school, and he came back and said, hey, what do you know about grant writing? And I go, nothing. And it was just a learning experience on the run. So the first year we applied for the BJA COSAP grant, we didn't get it, but it was a huge learning experience. The second year we put in for it, we joined forces with our health department, and we were able to secure a $900,000 Bureau of Justice Administration COSAP grant, which allowed us to hire this amazing team behind me. So we have Julianah, who's our social worker, 2 peer advocates, and a grant administrator. Can every agency do this? No, there's some staffing issues. We are fortunate enough, and we are not a huge sheriff's office by no means, but we had the ability to move and shuffle some staffing around to be able to put this team together and be relatively successful, at least in our eyes. So our team is made up of, like I said, the social worker, peer advocates, grant administrator, law enforcement deputy sheriffs, obviously a couple members of our corrections division, and we also have a security division, security officers. And a couple of our security officers are involved in a team. And one of our security officers, unfortunately, his son succumbed to the opioid epidemic. So There's a lot of passion on this team. There's a lot of drive, and we have a lot of support to get the job done.
Thank you so much, Chad. And Peter, about 80% of individuals who engage with the criminal justice system have some sort of drug use or addiction situation going on. What assessment or screening is being done within the community or the people who are being picked up so that we can start early intervention with assessment and treatment for individuals with addiction, substance abuse and addiction?
I don't know, you got a heads up on the question. Yeah. All right, what I could tell you is that without preparing for this, what we do have a medically assisted treatment program in our facility as well, which we implemented in October. What we do is screen everybody that comes in for drug addiction or substance abuse issues, and we will put them into our treatment program right at that point in time. As far as on the street, we have a similar program modeled after Oracle. It's called the Impacted Citizens Program, and Lieutenant Tortorelis does administer that program. And what they do is go out to each and every overdose call in the county, and that's coming right from our 911 center. We get those messages directly from them. Within 24 to 48 hours, George and his team goes out and sees each and every one of those people and offers them services. Unfortunately, we don't have the funding that Ulster County has, but we have made connections with Mobile Crisis, and we have the Reach Center providing a peer counselor for us. So we will divert, and if necessary, we will use Oracle to divert to them as well. So we are in partnership with Ulster County, as well as our other community partners, all trying to do the same thing. The bottom line is we realize that our job is public safety. And in order to complete that, we realize that we have to address the opioid addiction, because by helping them, we in turn reduce the chances of them committing other crimes to further their addiction. So as long as we're all working on the same page, that's our plan, and we're going to go forward. And we hope to expand those teams to include some more services and some more personnel that one has the funding for. So with that, that's what we do on a daily basis.
Thus far, do we have any questions in the audience or online for those folks who have spoken? I see one. Do you need a mic? No, I'm okay.
Well, you have to get the question.
Stand up.
Okay. My question is, what barriers or obstacles did you face with trying to get law enforcement on the side of this program? And as individuals not in law enforcement, what could we do to try to get our own sheriff's department to try to get a program like this? Anybody that can answer it.
I'm going to bring you right here.
Okay.
Give one the mic.
Like the lieutenant said, this was not easy. It wasn't. I mean, it was not easy, but we did get buy-in from every, the majority of the law enforcement entities in our county now use the team that's behind you. And I sold it by saying it's not just the sheriff's office team, it's everybody's team, and that everybody can use it. We're a little unique in Ulster County that we have a chiefs association that meets once a month, and we're pretty tight. We may not always agree, but we can definitely communicate and speak. I had the conversation that you asked with a few of your folks this morning, and the best way, the best approach is phased in and buy-in, and you got to give them a little ownership. You got to say, this is what I'm looking to do. How can we achieve that goal? What do you need to make that happen? Let them make a decision too, so they feel like they're part of it, and there's some ownership. Because if you don't make them part of it, you don't give them ownership, they're not going to buy in. The phased-in approach, I'm telling you, You can't just rush to it. Even right now, we have a meeting on Monday regarding the MAP program at the jail because we seem to veer off, and sometimes we need to come back and keep your eye on the target, which is helping people and saving lives. That's ultimately what this is about. And if you can speak to the local chiefs or your Department of Health, and as you heard the lieutenant say, the emergency room calls us now. And that's how you get it started. You get it started by actually reaching out and having the meetings and talking about what you want your police agency to do, because ultimately we work for the people. And if the people want change, we're obligated to do that.
Good, thank you.
We seem to have another question in the audience. Come on up, please.
Yeah. So a comment and a question, basically. And the comment is, I think, especially in uniformed services, it comes down from the top. So I want to thank both of you as the chiefs to give that direction from the top. Because if it's not coming down from the top, it doesn't come down. And the question is, in the prison, what type of MAT are you using presently?
I'm going to let Julianah talk. You guys are tired of hearing me.
Thank you very much. My name is Julianah Abimbola. Okay. My name is Julianah Abimbola Ogundimu. I'm a social worker. I'm also a master CASAC. I have an MBA. I do have a lot of experience in substance abuse. I also teach at Dutchess Community College, and I'm also an adjunct in SUNY Ulster as well. All my life is on substance use. So I advocate for individuals with substance use. I want to say that we've been blessed in Ulster County to have a sheriff like this, who is very passionate, and my boss, Lieutenant Chad, as well. And we also have a very unique team. The Oracle team is special. They were all passionate about what we do, and we'll go any length. So we started in the maintenance, just like the sheriff has said, in 2019, and then new inductions started in 2021, as well as we were preparing ourselves for what the governor of New York State, when he brought up the law for all jail to have the MAT inductions as well as maintenance. So we offer Subutex in the Ulster County Jail, and then we do maintenance for other, for anybody coming in or need to be on methadone. So we do that as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Question for peer support teams. Peer support services are an integral part to treatment and recovery for those who engage in the criminal justice system with addiction and substance abuse. What is needed within the current system to help incarcerated or folks who engage with the criminal justice system have a best chance at recovery?
Thank you. So my name is Jessica Merck. I work with the Oracle team as the peer advocate. I was hired in 2021, February. I also volunteered with them before we received the grant. So I'm a person that struggled with opioid use disorder for a long time. I was also incarcerated behind charges to fuel my addiction. So that's a great question, very close to home. I think one of the most important pieces to reduce recidivism and the pieces that are needed is education. It's jobs, it's job training. The recidivism rate drastically decreases with education, and the higher level of education you go, the recidivism rate goes down. MAT is huge. It allows for someone to have a compassionate and humanistic experience when they're incarcerated and they are suffering from withdrawals. That's a terrible experience. I went through it. I was incarcerated for 2 weeks and was withdrawing. It was terrible. So MAT is a large part of it.
Say what MAT is.
Medically assisted treatment. Yeah, so our jail does continuations. We also do injections as Juliana said, and that's been huge. Narcan accessibility for people who are leaving the jail. Fentanyl test strips for people who may return to using. Harm reduction is a huge part of this. It's really a collaborative approach. It's so many pieces are involved, but like I said, reentry is huge. That's the 4th phase of the Oracle program, and we're working on implementing that next year, I believe. So that's it. Thank you.
We hear a lot about the medication assistance program with incarcerated individuals with substance use. How available is methadone and buprenorphine in your current criminal justice system, and how are these individuals, how accessible are they for those who needs it? Who's going to answer? In the jail.
It's actually very accessible. If you come in and you're assessed with a addiction, or you're already on the program, it's immediately available. There's no delay. The medical team sees them. If they come in during the middle of the night, they're there first thing in the morning. They get assessed, and they could be on it by afternoon. So it's pretty smooth. Yours, I'm assuming, works the same way, correct?
Is that required in all jails and prisons in New York State?
It will be required legally October of this year. Ulster County started in 2019, and we started in 2 months ago.
I have a follow-up question, and before both of you escape here, because I know you guys are leaving. Now, within the prison system, knowing that about 80% of the folks have some sort of addiction situation, but inside prison itself or jails, working there, I know that in real life that prisoners continue to have access to drug while incarcerated, even though it is a contraband in the inside. How do we continue to experience overdose where we need Narcan use and so on within the prison system when drug is a contraband?
So I'll start that by saying we have not had that problem. Knock on wood. It's extremely difficult to detect. Both of us have basically expensive X-ray machines when you come in. We scan everything that comes in, but it's still Suboxone, as you know, comes in a film. Sometimes they can get it in. Luckily, we don't have not had that issue. Now that you could buy K2 paper on Amazon, I'm being told, so they can conceal it as legal mail and send that in. So we're trying to find ways to combat that. We're beginning to see if we can copy that material and give them the copies, because that's not only a danger to them, it's a danger to everybody in that facility. So we would rather them do it the way that we provide rather than illicit ways. And if you want to add to that, Juan, please.
So the way we do it, it's a little bit different. We have everyone in the same housing unit. So when the medication is distributed by our medical staff, they're in the same housing unit. They're not separate, although there's some question of doing it that way because it kind of isolates certain people that feel there's a stigma associated with it. We're still researching that, but for the purposes of security and safety, and I have 21 in the MAP program right now that are in that housing unit, and we have folks that are specially trained. We've had some overdoses, but mainly from people that came into the facility that checked in because they kind of load up, if you will, before that they know that they're going to be in the facility. And we're only 15 minutes away from the hospital, so we get an ambulance. We have the same vendor, medical provider. We have a 24/7 medical provider in the jail. So there's a nursing staff and doctors that come in on a regular basis in the jail to avoid that type of issue and problem. But yes, it does happen occasionally, but not very often.
Great.
Thank you. Treatment for addiction and substance abuse often include a detoxification phase within entry. Is there availability of detox for folks, and how is it implemented in the prison system, in your system, in the criminal justice? Detoxification.
Yes, the medical detoxification, you mean?
Yes.
Okay. So we do have individuals that come into the jail that are going in withdrawal, that are in withdrawals, and we do have medical staff in there, 24/7 that helps through with proper medication, and they will be further inducted into the medication-assisted treatment. So that has helped a lot, because, like I said earlier, every incarcerated individual has a right to get services. So as Oracle, we have a system in the jail to even monitor it. We go into the jail to assess people. One of the goals of the sheriff is alternative to incarceration. So we will find individuals to collaborate with the DA's office, with probation, parole, every legal system, and we will advocate. Sometimes we even go to court with them to make sure that we have them get the opportunity, because just like the sheriff said, the reason why they're there is because to feed their addiction, right? They have all these charges. So if you can find somebody, we take it case by case. But if you really need to be in jail, you will be in jail. But we look at it case by case, and if this person really needs to be in treatment, we'll do the transportation ourselves and move them into treatment, and we do tracking. We'll follow them through into the treatment and make sure we'll continue to support them even when they come into the back. And we also have some of them that have breach scripts, would advocate. We work with Sun River Healthcare, a lot of other facilities, Insta Family Health. I sit in all this collaboration meeting every week, and all I'm thinking about is who is going to help me when I need help with a client. So we are very passionate about what we do, and we want to save life, continue to save lives in our communities. Thank you.
Good.
Thank you. We've seen a lot of policy changes of late in legislature in advocating for treatment for those individuals who are engaging in the criminal justice system. Are there, and it has been quite controversial, are there any policy changes that you believe is still needed to improve access to treatment for prisoners and those engaging with the criminal justice system?
The reality is we just need more facilities and more treatment facilities and more people for us to collaborate with. It's tough that we did a 6-hour one-way trip out to Vermont to bring somebody to treatment because that was the best place for them. Like, why do we have to travel out of New York State? Not going to get into, in Ulster County, they took our beds out of Ulster County and moved them over into Dutchess County. That was totally detrimental to any program or any services. And hopefully there's, through some funding and our county executive and the sheriff and our health department, mental health department, like they got something in the works now, but really it comes down to we need more services to offer.
Great.
We've talked a lot about funding over and over again. It seems the word funding continues to pop up. How is funding, in order to provide services, there is a need for funding. How are you funding the programs that you need, and what additional funding is needed in order for you to continue to provide treatment?
And I'm sure I could speak for Sheriff Kusminsky on this one too. So we were fortunate in our office and the size that we were, not huge by the way, to be able to allocate some staffing to start this without any funding at all. So we literally started our program with just what we had within our office itself. Through the Bureau of Justice Administration grant, the $900,000 grant over 3 years, that allowed us to expand to these amazing individuals here, and also to because Sheriff Figueroa is a huge supporter and a big advocate of getting people the help that they need. He has fought with our county executive and our county legislature to add positions within our budget itself. So we've actually expanded our budget for this particular program, and currently we're in the process of starting our AVERT program, which is Anti-Violence Initiative Team, and that's an anti-gun team. So we're using the same philosophy as Oracle as, all right, let's get out, let's do some education in the community, let's get those guns off the street, whether it's, listen, social media is a great tool for us, and we learn a lot on social media. And if a kid is flashing a gun around, instead of waiting for him to commit a crime, our philosophy is we're going to seek that individual out, and we're going to attempt to buy that gun from him through a partnership we have with the Attorney General's office, the Chamber of Commerce, and a couple other organizations that Mario has done a fantastic job, has partnered with to actually go out and fix this little bit of a problem. We had a pretty good uptick in violent crime, and hopefully this is another way that we can combat that.
Good.
Thank you. Over the past few years, we have seen great changes, and not really changes in our nation, but evidence that there are division, racial division, or personal division. In addition, we know that there's a great deal of stigma in issues of mental health and substance use disorder. As folks in the criminal justice system, how are you educating your staff and preparing yourself to deal with the changing demographics of individuals who are coming into your communities, folks of different cultural and racial backgrounds that differs from that of the people that you typically are familiar with? How it's hard enough to provide treatment, to those folks that you do already know and understand. How are you managing those you do not know well, and how are you educating staff to prepare them for the cultural competent services? Chad.
All right, that was a lot, so you may have to prompt me a little bit. So prior to this current position I have, I was our training coordinator for the Ulster County Sheriff's Office. So in continuing our education and our training, we are an accredited agency which requires us to have a certain amount of training per year as the state guideline. As far as breaking down the barriers, it's really about community engagement. And one of the things that came out of police reform and everything else that went nationwide as far as law enforcement and the distrust, we learned a lot from it, and we have started community meetings where we meet once a month, and everybody's basically able to voice their concerns and what's going good, what's going bad. So I think opening the lines of communication with the community that we serve has been key to help us learn, as well as to help the community learn as well. And I know I missed something. Oh, CIT training. So one of the great things that came out of police reform is, we talk about funding, and one of the first things that, in my experience as the training guy, and then as a person that worked in a smaller town agency as well, is one of the first things that gets cut out of any budget is our training line or our vehicle line. So my opinion in this is that with police reform, a much needed thing that came out of that was they don't touch our budget line for training anymore. They've actually increased it. And one of the best trainings that we got out of this was a partnership through Office of Mental Health in Albany and the Department of Criminal Justice called CIT training. So Crisis Intervention Team Training. It's a nationwide model, and it's big on de-escalation. It's big on education as far as informing the officers of, hey, these are some of the signs and symptoms of mental illness, and these are things that you can look for, and these are some key points that you can say and not say. And also if you see somebody that's on certain medications, then you know that they may have this type of disorder. So just educating ourselves and getting out in the community, I think, has been able to break down some of those barriers.
Hi, my name is George Tortorelis. I'm a lieutenant with the Greene County Sheriff's Office, and I've probably been an anomaly in law enforcement in upstate New York since I've started because I grew up in the Bronx, a very diverse background community. I had a family member, older family member, that was involved with substance abuse. I saw that from a young age, so I grew up with the compassion for dealing with people in these situations. In Greene County, since Sheriff Kusminsky has come in, we've introduced programs to help with substance abuse, impacted citizens programs, similar to Oracle, but we're kind of the Volkswagen version of Oracle. And we do anti-bias training, diversity training within the agency to help with some of the situations you're speaking of. We're also almost have implemented the LEAD program. I don't know how many people are familiar with LEAD. It stands for Law Enforcement Assisted Diversion, which was created in 2011 in Seattle because of social injustices and so forth. And what that does, what that program does, is it allows officers, deputies that respond to minor offenses that they feel may have been drug-related or something other than very serious crimes, and we can defer those people pre-arrest. So they get an offer of going into some kind of diversion program, whether it's for substance abuse or mental health, rather than being arrested and going through the system that way. So I think that program is a great program that we've been developing it for about a year and a half, 2 years. COVID started, that put a damper on it. That's where we started ICP. But now we're at the final phases, and probably within the next month, LEAD will be totally implemented in Greene County. We have all the county agencies on board, mental health, Greene County Mental Health, the District Attorney's Office, Probation Department, all the key agencies that can assist us in getting this program off the ground and helping with the diversity we see in our communities nowadays.
Thank you, thank you. Are there any questions? Because we really want the audience to be engaged in the conversation.
So I do have a question for you. So you're in Greene County, and I was concerned to be reading in the newspaper about the difficulty Mountaintop. I don't know if anyone is here from Mountaintop. Somebody was coming. They may be online. But Mountaintop is a similar coalition to ours, and they were looking for a building, and they got huge community pushback. We chatted for a moment about that, but I wonder, you know, in this case, it's like the police are ahead of the community. Could you speak to what you see as the opportunity here for helping to educate the community about the changes and why the police are making these changes and how the whole community needs to support this work?
Yeah, as you mentioned, yes, there was a big pushback. They tried to put a center in the town of Wyndham. I think part of the problem was that they were putting it close to the school, and that gave people ammunition to resist that. So there was a huge pushback on that, and it did not happen. I even went and spoke at one of the town board meetings, kind of on behalf of harm reduction and so forth. And even with that, still did not, the community was still so against having that center in town that it did not go through. I think it's just, as far as changing people's mindset, it's going to take time. It's going to take a lot of work. I mean, look at this room here. We have a diverse group of people coming from different backgrounds, all working towards a common goal. I think the more we do that, the more we set an example out there, show the differences we're making, it is going to make a difference, and people are going to start to turn. It's going to be slow. It's slow within the community, and to be honest with you, law enforcement is the same thing. It's going to be a slow turnaround. A lot of us here are very open-minded about this, have been open-minded, and it's going to take us setting the example for our communities and other law enforcement officers to come to the same mindset. And I think, again, with us leading that way, it's going to be a slow but it's going to happen.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other questions in the audience? I'll take you first. Come on up so you can hear you.
Anything online?
Hi. Oh, yes. Where do you need me? Okay. Oh, there I am. Goodness. Hi, my name's Courtney. I'm a social worker from Truth Farm in Binghamton. My question for you all is kind of revisiting what you talked about earlier on. So the Oracle program, in what ways were community members who use drugs involved into the design and development of that program?
Like I would tell you that the Oracle trailer we have a trailer that goes that Chad was talking about earlier. We use it for all our community education, opioid education, NACAN training. It was donated by a mother of an individual that overdosed. So we're very involved with the community. We, like, apart from the community meetings we have, we're also involved in so many things where we look for collaborations with community members. You know, we get calls from them, you know, for NACAN education. Even sometimes they have a problem they don't know. They call us, we make our numbers available. I particularly want to go into the community meetings every month. We have the chief in Kingston there. We have the troopers there. We have a lot of community members there that come. They had the June 12th event. We were there. Oracle was there. We're part of that event. So we're involved in a lot of community programs because without the community, we cannot function. You know, these are people's parents, people's children, people's sisters, aunts that are going through this substance use, this problem. So we want to make ourselves always available to the community.
So just real quick on that. When Sheriff Figueroa ran for sheriff in 2018 along the campaign trail, and I wish he was here to tell the story, it didn't matter what town he was in Ulster County or where he was, what part, he heard the same story over and over again. I have a loved one that's addicted and I can't get him help. Unfortunately, I had a loved one that passed away and I want to help. How can I help? And we were very fortunate to have a lot of great people who donated money so we could purchase the camper. And then obviously, you know, it's just built and built and built. And we rely on feedback from people that we deal with and the community and the community forums. We get a lot of great feedback. I will tell you, our first debut with our trailer at the Ulster County Fair, like they put us in the back corner and they were like, all right, good luck. Not a lot of people go back there. But you know, the next year we were there, and even last year, you know, shut down a little bit for COVID, but last year we were like center stage, and we got a lot of traffic through. So it's that stigma's changing, and the stigma of law enforcement helping is also changing, especially in Ulster County. Like I said, we get calls and referrals from just about every organization in the county now.
I just want to add to that. The whole part of both these teams is us developing that relationship with the community. If we develop that rapport and we get them to trust us and believe that we're actually there to help and not to incarcerate them, that goes a long way. And the more we can get that out, we can also build upon those relationships in those towns that don't understand exactly what we're trying to do. So it's all about building those trust and relationships with the community members, and that's the emphasis of both these teams. Thank you.
Thank you. So we do not, unfortunately, have any more time left. I know that there was a question in the back of the room. Please definitely write it down in one of the pieces of paper, and then they'll do a follow-up with you. With that, I would like to thank the panel and everybody who participated in the conversation.
And